Hi, I'm Jim Gordon.
I'm Lita Leapins.
And welcome to another edition of Our City Tonight.
Well, we're here in the Cabana Room at Hydra Restaurant, where we love to film our show, and we love the guys here at Hydra.
We do, and we also got a big show to show you right after you look at this.
We're back with another one of our summer wine spotlights, and we're joined by, well, wine royalty definitely, Christine Coletta, co-founder of Okanagan Crush Pad. You have some very exciting things happening with the wine right now.
We certainly do. We have lots of wines on the offering for summer, some great ideas for camping, picnicking, boating, in addition to some new releases and some great news about what we're doing at the winery too.
Wonderful.
Let's start with the two wines you have on just closest to me, which
Yes.
is great, within grabbing distance.
Yes, so this is our Freeform Riesling, and I should just back up a little bit and tell you that we make several different wines at Okanagan Crush Pad. We have Freeform, Haywire, Bisou and Yukon, and then we also have a brand called Narrative,
Yes.
which I didn't bring today.
Very familiar with that. I
Great.
think all of BC is.
Yes, yes. So the Riesling that I brought is a 2020. It is absolutely delightful. It's zero residual sugar, but the acidity and the pH balance is just so spot on that it's just a glass full of honey and joy.
Ooh, sounds
It's
delicious.
amazing. I was so excited. I was pouring it the other day and got so many great remarks on it.
Oh,
So I'm very
perfect.
excited about that wine.
Wonderful.
The one we have in our glass
Gorgeous.
is the Haywire Gamay Rosé, and this is our 2019. We've been making Gamay Rosé since 2010, so we've got it dialed in.
You do.
And I just love rosés made from Gamay. This is organic, vegan, low intervention, so we don't manipulate the wine. We don't add anything. We try not to filter it, and it's just a delightful wine. It's been a very hot item today.
Oh, good. It's always nice to hear.
The first sign of good weather, and everyone starts thinking rosé. I personally drink it all year round.
I was going to say, you're talking to
do
the choir
too.
here. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, totally love it.
Yeah.
And we're very familiar with your wines, and hopefully the rest of the world will become that way too.
Yes. I just got back from London, where I was pouring these wines there for the trade and media.
And the reaction?
They're blown away. They don't even consider Canada as capable of making wine.
Wow.
And then when you pour these examples, and what we're doing here is exactly what that market is looking for. Cool climate, high altitude, crisp, fresh, juicy, textured, and it's all the buzzwords that they're talking about in London.
Speaking of the wine and the rest of the world and how they look at us, you have been around the wine landscape of BC for a number of years. Can
Yes.
you talk about how things clearly in the right direction have gone compared to, say, 30, 40 years ago?
Well, I know I've been around for a while because
No, I say a while. You started very young. I want to clarify that. Right out of public school, right into the wine business.
I get called the godmother of the wine industry, so
okay.
at least I'm not the grandmother.
No.
I'm the godmother.
Godmother's
No.
good.
So yeah, I have been in the business now for over 30 years. I started the VQA program in 1990 with Chris Lee McWater's father, Harry.
Yep.
And what a visionary he was. And he was the one that convinced me to get into the wine business. And here I am.
Wow,
So
that's a good story.
in 2009, we made our first wine at our own winery. And it was to be a little retirement project for my husband and I. And now see what's happened.
Speaking of wine, let's talk about what's going on over here.
Yes.
This
Oh, yes.
looks really exciting.
Yeah, so Bisou and Yukon is another wine portfolio that we have. Bisou is our female Great Pyrenees, and Yukon is her brother. So they're the two dogs that patrol our vineyard and keep bears and coyotes and cougars away. So they're protecting grapes, and we feel that based on all of their hard work, they should at least have their own wine. the Great Pyrenees like to wander. If you know anything about the breed, they are great wanderers. So we call this the Wandering White. It's a lovely blend. Absolutely fantastic for taking on the road in the summertime.
Yeah.
And then we've also done some wine in cans for the first time.
Christine, it must be challenging. You've got a great product, but the presentation, and this is not the old mom and dad box of wine kind of scenario. How has that been to get people on board?
Well, exactly. You know, you always do what your parents didn't do. So if your parents are having bag-in-the-box wine, clearly it's not for you. So the idea is that we really have to convey to people that the same quality that's in the bottle is in the can and is in the bag. They're super convenient, they're lightweight, they're easier to recycle. The cost of glass is going through the roof, and availability for glass bottles is really, really scarce. So we're really excited about different formats for wine. And it's our job to educate people that they can rely on them and trust them.
Perfect. Once again, ahead of the curve. It's nice to see a BC winery doing so.
Definitely, always trying to be first.
Well, and thank you for being a part of another summer BC wine segment spotlight here on Our City Tonight. We'll have all Christine's information in our closing credits. Rick Dugdale is a Canadian film producer. He is also the president and CEO of Enderby Entertainment, an independent film finance and production company. He's been making movies for a long time, and it's really great for Lita and I to welcome him back. He was on our show literally 2 years ago, June of 2020, at the early days of the pandemic, when we were locked in a studio. He was locked in a studio. But Rick, at that time, you were putting together a film that to us seemed tremendously challenging with the lockdown. It was called Zero Contact. People have been just looking at it now. It's great to welcome you back, Rick, and we can't wait to talk about this film that got done. It's getting great reviews. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. And it's good to be back.
Absolutely. Rick, you managed to very creatively, during massive lockdown of COVID, create a film that's like nothing else. Tell us a little bit about that and how you accomplished that.
Yeah, going into it is extremely ambitious, we thought, but at the same time, we knew we had a lot of crew around the world that were kind of doing nothing. Everybody was dealing with the same issue. You couldn't shoot a film conventionally. And so we had a think tank. We kind of came up with this idea of what would be possible remotely. And we quickly wrote a script that actually started to work, and the story was really working for us. And we put a crew together and said, this is going to make a film all remotely. And it took a while of post-production to complete it the way we wanted to, but I think it turned out pretty well.
Rick, one of the things that Lita and I loved about this film is that it would be commendable, as she mentioned, the accomplishment of doing this under restrictions. But this film isn't a gimmicky film. Yeah, it's very unique, but there's also a great story. So we got to say congratulations on that as well, because it could have easily just been a gimmick film, and it's not.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. I mean, part of it is when COVID hit and everyone's looking at Zoom every day, the storylines that you anticipate them coming up with is some kind of horror movie in a box or some contained Zoom-like horror movie. And we figured that's the one thing we wanted to avoid. And really, ultimately, if a film's going to have a life and you're going to find distribution and an audience, it's got to have a story. It's the most critical piece. And so we were fortunate enough to be, to have writers in-house and be a very writer-centric company. And so, Can wrote an incredible screenplay that really allowed us to tell a great story.
And it's a trilogy. We're excited to find out about that. And you're shooting, maybe you haven't hit all the countries, 13 different countries. Tell us how you managed to do that as well. And it just looks so seamless, the first part anyway.
Yeah, we started filming in Antarctica in December, and this is about taking an audience to places they don't get to go. We did it remotely, obviously in part one, but you realize where the story and where it can go is that being a futurist, sci-fi type of thriller, the storylines are kind of endless. And so we built a part 2 and part 3 that would take audiences to places like Antarctica. And yes, we became the first film to shoot in Antarctica. That's where we started filming in December. The rest of the filming will start up after the summer. We're going to places like Jordan and Egypt and Micronesia and Bolivia and all these amazing places that obviously will scream production value. But about taking people to places they don't get to go. And our storyline will walk the lines of maybe an Indiana Jones kind of thing. But it does start with story, and I think with part 2 and 3, we're going to be able to extend that.
I think that's true too, Rick, by the amount of solid acting talent that you attracted, including Anthony Hopkins. You've also worked with Ben Kingsley. We should give a shout out to our good friend and kind of a friend of the show too, Alex Ponovac, who, well, he's not here that much anymore because he's working all the time. I talked to him the other day and he was on his way to Saudi Arabia. We should mention Zero Contact is out on VOD now. Rick, we must ask you about this, and I'm showing my ignorance here when it comes to this world, but this is the, Zero Contact is the first feature film to have an NFT release. Explain that to our audience.
Yes, so NFTs are obviously very buzzworthy. That word is very buzzworthy and it's out there. But the reality is that when we finished the film and it was unconventional, it made sense for us to release the film in an unconventional way. And so we formed a company called Viewly, which Viewly is the first NFT distribution company out there. And what that means is that when you buy an NFT, this is a digital collectible. This sits in your digital wallet when you are a member on Viewly. Different than a DVD or a Blu-ray. This is something that has inclusions inside of it. It's like a DVD with bonus features on steroids. This is something that is fan engagement. It's for the Comic-Con kind of goers. But more importantly, you are part of a exclusive group. There's only a certain amount of NFTs sold of the film in perpetuity. And so Viewly is where you buy your NFT film, collectibles tied to the films that it's releasing, and it's ultimately a whole new world of film distribution. And we think it's definitely a future for where Hollywood's going to go.
Well, this film definitely is creative in so many aspects on so many platforms, and we're super excited to see the next 2 for sure. And we want to say thanks for joining us all the way from Calabasas. Is it nice there right now?
It's beautiful. It's hot. We're under a heat wave right now, so yes, it's nice and warm here.
We want some
Rick,
of that.
yeah, I was going to say, Rick, that's not fair. We're soaking and we're indoors.
Is it raining in Vancouver?
Oh, it's of course it is. Yes. Hey, listen, Rick. Thanks. As Lita said, we'll have all Rick's information in the closing credits, and look for Zero Contact. It is available on VOD now. Rick, it is great to see you again. It's always great to have somebody on a couple years after they were in the early days of putting something together and to see results, which are just fabulous. So, Rick, we wish you continued success. Come back when part 2 and 3 are in the can and ready to roll.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And hey, big thanks to Leslie Diana, who coordinated and helped us set this up. PR people are a big part of what we do. He's an actor-producer with a long list of credits in TV and film. The TV stuff, wow, Mad Men, Young and the Restless, Law and Order. He is just back from filming a TV show in Puerto Rico and just wrapped on a Seth Rogen show as well. What you're looking at right now is his latest film called Dangerous Cheaters. Back and joining us for the first time again, Lita, time flies, since the summer of 2018 when he was here in Vancouver as part of the cast of Young and the Restless. Joining us from what looks like a very picturesque place just outside of Boston, Daniel Hall joins us here on Our City Tonight. Daniel, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me. I missed you guys. It's been a minute.
We've missed you too, and you've been very busy despite COVID. But something a little different, you're putting on the producer's hat. Tell us what's happening.
I am, absolutely. Yeah, I was delivered a script many years back, about 10 years ago, from a writer-director. And he had been approaching me as an actor to play a role in the film. And the project, as many of them do, kind of just, time went by, it didn't happen. And he said basically he felt he had aged out of the director hat. And he wanted to know if I was interested in maybe helping produce this piece and finding a director who that people may throw a little money at. So my job over the last, it's been almost 18 months with this thing. I've gone out to Ireland. I spoke with really incredible directors. Jim Sheridan was one of them who showed interest in the piece. Scheduling didn't quite work for us, but I found a really great production company locally in Ireland. It's called Dunsany Pictures. And Randall Plunkett, he's actually Lord Dunsany. He has jumped on board to be the Irish arm of the producing team. And we should be shooting that, if all goes to plan, sometime in late September.
Yeah, you and I have talked occasionally over the last couple of years about, it goes without saying, we all were challenged to say the least. I mean, how is your town of Hollywood and LA feeling now? I mean, obviously, as you discussed with me, I mean, the challenges of just things shut down, our show almost shut down. How is the feeling there now?
The feeling is that things are back open, but it's sort of the sense of what can we actually be doing? So it's like, I think they just brought back the mask mandates to Los Angeles County again, literally this last week. So I don't know how that's really going to affect the acting and film production industry, but it's like we're on set, but we're holding our breath. Because each time one person gets COVID on a set, you really have to shut down the whole thing. And I've worked on projects where a week before I'd gotten there, they had been shut down. They try to, keep it kind of quiet because they don't want that to get out too much, but they do the protocol, super strict. We wear mostly the shields and masks right up until they say action, and then we take it off. So it's interesting. I think things have reopened in quite a bit, but you still feel that there's this sort of unease that this could all go away again.
Yeah, well, we feel the same. Everyone's being a little extra cautious, which is probably great. And we wanted to talk about, besides your being busy in all of your industry, you have a particular project, Kind Travelers, that we want you to tell our audience about.
Absolutely, yeah. Kind Traveler is it's one of a kind. It's a give and get platform for a hotel booking site where when you travel, you give a minimum of $10 and you get up to 20% off of your stay. So you give $10 to either a local charity of your choice, somewhere like, let's say you're traveling to Mexico or some other part of the world, and you find a charity that's, let's say your thing is music, which is a lot of mine, that maybe supports the people of that community's music programs. Or if your thing is the ocean and conservancy, maybe helping save the ocean, you can find a local charity. But if you give $10, you get 20% off of your hotel. And so you basically get a return in savings on your hotel while giving back to the local charity in that community.
Yeah, and you were sharing with us that the reason for that is a lot of times when you travel to some of these smaller communities, the money that you're spending doesn't go directly back to help that community. So what a great feeling, and it's awesome that you're on board to be an ambassador for them.
Absolutely, yeah, and you do get an opportunity to see almost like a report card after you've given to the charity, how it actually had an impact on the community, and to see how you're actually shrinking your carbon footprint while traveling.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Certainly a timely thing, too. I was reading a press release earlier this winter on Hawaii, the state of, that they're really trying to look at this kind of tourism that's got a conscience when it comes to traveling to their state. They love the tourists, but there's things that are suffering because of that. Hey, Dan, I told you we were talking a couple weeks ago, and I said it's amazing when you have a friend that your stuff pops up once in a while. And I was telling you about the great scene of you and Mad Men, where you were on one of the later episodes. Where tell our viewers a bit about that. We're going to show a little clip of that as you're talking about it too.
Wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah. That was one of the best experiences in my acting career. The way they shot it, first of all, it looks to be like we're improvising as this dance number goes on, but I was actually, the choreographer was the choreographer of Saturday Night Fever, and she worked with us for, about 3 days on the dance moves, and we got to work with Jessica Perret, who I believe is a Canadian,
She's Montreal born, oh yeah.
Yeah, so Jessica Perret was one of the sweetest, most generous actors I've worked with, and she said to me one day on that set, she goes, my role started out just like this. I had to do a dance number that was just meant to be a 2-episode thing or a 3-episode thing. And she ended up being a series regular and having that roll out to a really amazing role for her. And just working with John Hamm and her in those scenes was just one of those career things that you'll remember for the rest of your life. So I was very happy to be on set there.
Well, it was a wonderful, wonderful scene. Well, we want to thank you very much for joining us. Don't take so long next time to come back and see us, especially when your other projects get going full bore. We'd love to have you back on.
Absolutely. I'll keep you in the loop on the Happy Faces project in Ireland.
That's great, pal. And I said to you earlier, I hope our paths cross in Ireland this fall. It'd be great to grab a pint while we're both over there. Hey, it's Daniel Hall, actor and, as Lita mentioned, producer. Excellent. Great to have you on the show, sir. And we will talk to you again very soon. Well, we hope you're enjoying this edition of Our City Tonight back here at the Cabana Lounge. Lita, it's that social media time.
It is. Well, you can find us on all the social platforms at Our City Tonight. That would be Facebook, YouTube, as well as Instagram.
Yeah, don't forget, if you have any story ideas, you can reach out to us on those platforms as well. Let's get back to Our City Tonight. This segment is sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online. Hi, Jim Gordon here with another Richmond Sentinel video segment. Well, this is really cool because this is the first of its kind in Canada and North America. We're in the Richmond Mall in the Signature Mazda boutique store. I'm joined by the owner and GM of Signature Mazda, which you can find in the Auto Mall, and this new boutique store. It's Marco Joanno. Marco, welcome.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Pleasure for us. I was saying as we walked in here that I'm sure this will be commonplace within a couple of years, but to see something like this in a regular mall is something really cool and different. Talk a bit about what you wanted to do when you talked with head office. You got Mazda in on board on this. What did you want to do?
You know, our concept was that we wanted to create something very different, more a brand experience, a customer experience for clients that was not typical of what they would normally get if they were in a car dealership.
Right.
Here in the Richmond Center, for example, we tend to get a very different type of client that just wants to kind of get a chance to enjoy the experience of the brand for the first time and learn a little bit about it. And so this has become something that head office took a little while to understand and see, but once they did, was very excited about it.
I could see that it would, you know, that it's, well, why do we want to be in a mall? I mean, anybody that lives in Richmond or even the Lower Mainland for that matter knows the Richmond Auto Mall, and you guys have a great location there. You've been there a long time, but the traffic that's been coming into this store in the limited time you've been open certainly proves your point, huh?
Yes. Yeah, we've been very satisfied with the traffic walking through, and mostly, you know, excited about the fact that it's people that are becoming familiar with the brand for the very first time.
Right. Now let's talk about some of the things that a potential customer, a curious onlooker going through the mall can experience when they come in here. I wanted to talk to you about the on-site test drive. Tell our viewers about that.
Yes, and it's something that we're evolving. The first thing that we get a chance to do is we have an interactive display where we take our clients through and give them an opportunity to build, price, experience the vehicle digitally. We have multiple color charts that allow clients to be able to visualize what their vehicle would look like when it's finally built.
Yeah.
We have some on-site vehicles, and we're also developing some other VR technologies that we're hoping to be able to incorporate into our facility here in the near future. And then for the actual physical test drive, we do have some vehicles available here at Richmond Center, but we also are very close proximity to our location in the Auto Mall. If a client wants to get a little bit more of a detailed drive, we take them out there.
Yeah, you're only, I'd say, 2 or 3 kilometers from the Signature Mazda. By the way, signaturemazda.com if you want more information. It's amazing also because as we're doing this right now, we seem to be at, touch wood, at this stage of we're growing and learning to live with COVID and the different stages and the different types. This must have been difficult to push this through too, because as you and I were saying, 2 years ago around now, nothing's open.
Correct.
So this must be a real help, because malls were also not open for a long time either. So this seems to have been timed perfectly with the stage that hopefully we're in now, where things are improving and heading in the right direction.
I hope so. I feel really good about where we're at today.
Yeah. Let's talk about too the different vehicles that you have in here. I was saying to you that I know that this idea has been floating around a long time, but there are 3 very distinct vehicles in here. So you can't obviously drive it out of the mall, but you can let people get the physical feel. It's nice to take the digital test and the on-site test drive, but it's nice to be able to sit in one of these vehicles.
Oh, absolutely. And right now you're experiencing a very different Mazda brand experience than you would have even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We're now in 7th and 8th generation product technologies. The fit and finish really is the alternative to the premium market. So clients that would typically be looking at Mercedes or Lexus or BMW look at our brand quite often because you get a little bit more vehicle for the money, and you're also getting the highest quality brand on the globe.
One of the things that I've talked to you about over the years too is you have this really great ability to not get complacent with your brand. This boutique where we're at right now is a perfect example of that. What do you see coming for customers? Because I know that people like yourself are always focused on improving the customer experience. What do you see coming that will add to that customer experience, including places like this? What do you see coming in the next few years?
I think what we tend to do in situations like this is listen to the voice of the customer.
Right.
Customers are usually quite transparent about what they like and what they don't like. It's funny, you know, the US and the Canadian market are so close, but yet so different. And the US, typically most US consumers enjoy the online buying experience, but in Canada a little bit less so. I think because you have a little bit more variety here and more dealers per capita.
Yeah, okay.
So the experience for the client is one where we just want to make sure that the client feels great about what they feel and experience at the time of the shopping experience and then at the time of the delivery. And for us, that's the beginning of it all, because we enjoy that. That gives us an opportunity to show the client how great we are during the ownership experience.
Yeah, I think that like many businesses, if you get complacent with your customer, there's lots of competition. So if they feel they're being neglected, they can certainly go elsewhere. Talk about the Mazda fitting room.
Yeah. The Mazda fitting room was really developed by Mazda Canada. A great idea, and it's an opportunity for clients to be able to customize their selection. So for example, you can choose wheels, different styles of wheels, different types of trim on your vehicle, things that are quite unique, and it allows you to be able to feel more that you're customizing your vehicle to your way.
Right. Oh, that's very cool. Yeah. Hey, we're here at the Richmond Mall, brand new place. As I said, this is very unique, the first of its kind. But I think it's setting a trend, and we'll see more of these in malls all over North America, I'm sure. It's the Signature Mazda Boutique branch of their brand here in the Richmond Mall. Talking with Marco Giuano. He is the GM and owner of Signature Mazda. Check out the Signature Mazda, obviously, at the Auto Mall as well. Hey, thanks for having us here today. This has been a great experience to see this and be in the first one in North America. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Pleasure.
This segment was sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online. Well, Lita, we are wrapping up another edition of Our City Tonight, but you have a few messages for our viewers.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I do. You can follow us on our social media platforms at Instagram and Facebook, as well as don't forget to check out all past episodes of our TV show on our YouTube channel.
That's right. I'm Jim Gordon.
And I'm Lita Liepins.
By the way, thanks to all the folks at Hedra here, and we'll see you on the next edition of Our City Tonight. Don't forget to check out past episodes and individual interviews, all on the Our City Tonight YouTube channel. Outdoor wear for Jim and Lita provided by Helly Hansen, alive since 1877. The Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.